The role of the conjunctive adverb is this. The description of a subject is classified into an experience, a condition, or an action. From the definition of a verb, a determiner, an adjective, or an adverb, the fact that the two experiences, conditions, or actions are in the logical relationship reflects that the speaker has the perspective in interpreting the two experiences, conditions, or actions. As we study the conjunctive adverb, we will focus on the definition of the verb in each clause. The fact that we consider the logical relationship between the experiences, conditions, or actions means that the perspective of the speaker to interpret the relationship between the two experiences, conditions, or actions. The speaker reveals the reason why the main clause and the subordinate clause are related from the continuity in time between the two experiences, conditions, or to the causality. To reveal that an experience, a condition, or an action causes the other experience, condition, or action. In this page, the relationship between the two experiences, conditions, or dealt with in the subordinate clause and the main clause is classified into two. The relationship linked the order of time is the relationship to reveal the causality between the two experiences, conditions, or means that Jesus Christ reveals the underlying relationship that is revealed as a cause and an effect. From now on, the logical relationships classified as continuity in time and the causality are able to be refined. The prerequisite and the assumption. The difference between the prerequisite and the assumption is that the speaker considers the actualization of the experience, condition, or action dealt with in the subordinate clause. The speaker considers the subordinate clause and the main clause are in the relationship of the prerequisite in a case that the experience, condition, or action dealt with in the subordinate clause is certain to be actualized at a point in time. The speaker who reveals the relationship between the experiences, conditions, or actions as the assumption considers the experience, condition, or action dealt with in the subordinate clause is certain not to be actualized. The relationship between the subordinate clause and the main clause is described continuity in time or the causality. Then we can focus on the subordinate clause. The subordinate clause describes the experience, condition, or action of a subject. The experience, condition, or action dealt with in the subordinate clause is classified as a prerequisite or an assumption. The speaker considers the experience, condition, or action in the subordinate clause that is certain to be actualized as a prerequisite. The speaker who considers the experience, condition, or action described in the subordinate clause as certain not to be actualized. The prerequisite describes an experience, a condition, or an action that is certain to be actualized in the subordinate clause. The speaker reveals the prerequisite stated in the subordinate clause in a way to arrange the experience, condition, or action indicated by the verb in the subordinate clause and the experience, condition, or action indicated by the verb in the main clause in order. The assumption is able to be dealt with on the premise that the speaker assures the definition of the verb in the subordinate clause not to be actualized. The speaker considers the relationship of cause and effect as the assumption that the experience, condition, or action indicated by the verb in the subordinate clause causes the definition of the verb in the main clause to be actualized. The speaker is able to state the subordinate clause that is the assumption when the definition of the verb in the subordinate clause is certain not to be actualized. Then the speaker, the subordinate clause as the assumption to cause the experience, condition, or action stated in the main clause. So the prerequisite and the assumption are similar from the perspective of describing the experience, condition, or action dealt within the subordinate clause. The subordinate clause whose definition of the verb is certain to be actualized is in a relationship of the prerequisite with the main clause. The subordinate clause whose definition of the verb is certain not to be actualized is in a relationship of assumption with the main clause.